Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and Delegate McNamara. It does specify that LLDs are subject to the same state and federal tax requirements as LLCs. And there's a section at the very end about taxation where it says that.
Might I respond? Madam Chair, to Council, I saw that in there, but I didn't know that necessarily applied to federal code. You know, certainly we can say it does, but the federal code say it does, and that was what my concern was.
Let's go ahead and open it to the audience. Anybody in support of the bill, come on up.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, Zach Lemaster with Gentry Law Consulting here on behalf of the Virginia Blockchain Council. I think our executive director for the council is online, so I'll just say we support the bill, and I'm sure he can answer any kind of questions.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. My name is Helen Sharp, and I'm with Americans for Prosperity. And we believe people who buy blockchain tokens to support or participate in decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs, should not face unlimited personal liability for the group's actions or honest mistakes. Just as everyday Americans purchase shares in public companies or join LLCs without risking their personal assets on every decision, token holders deserve the same basic protection when investing in decentralized projects. Limited liability enables ordinary people to allocate capital confidentially, reduces the cost of funding innovation, and directs resources towards job-creating technologies instead of forcing individuals to bear uncontrollable tail risks. DAOs already provided greater transparency and accountability through on-chain governance and auditable smart contracts than most traditional entities, yet denying token holders limited liability exposes them for unlimited downside for collective choices or code issues beyond their personal control. This unfair exposure discourages everyday participation, stifles grassroots blockchain innovation, and pushes projects and capital overseas, harming American competitiveness. Fraud or direct wrongdoing must remain fully punishable under the law, but good faith token holders in decentralized systems should never face unlimited liability. Anything less undermines economic freedom and the promise of these future building technologies. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody here to oppose?
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, Eric Link on behalf of the Virginia Bar Association. We definitely appreciate Delegate Helmer's work on this bill. It is moving in a very good direction. Unfortunately, we can't support it at this time as we have ongoing concerns about the liability, unaddressed liability concerns, so we have to oppose it at this moment.
Thank you. All right, so it looks like those online are all here to support the bill. So we're going to go ahead. Thank you for joining us remotely. We're going to go ahead and give everybody 60 seconds. There are quite a few of you online, so if you can keep your testimony to 60 seconds, that would be great. Thank you very much. I'll go ahead. I can't see that. Okay, I'll go ahead and call Ms. Delegates.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm Anastasia Delaccio, Executive Director of the Digital Chambers State Network. The Digital Chamber is a nonprofit organization committed to promoting global blockchain adoption and principled crypto and blockchain policy. We represent over 250 companies, many of whom have employees and users in Virginia. They're creating jobs and they're supporting Virginia's innovation. I'm here today to show my support for HB 293. It shows true commitment to future forward governance, accepting and adapting to the newest and most promising technologies available to Virginia citizens. For all of the reasons that a limited liability corporation is so important to protecting the operators and investors, this new LLD will offer the protections and powers necessary for on-chain businesses to grow and thrive. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. Mr. Leffel?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Greg Leffel with the Virginia Blockchain Council. You know, I really would just like to start by saying this bill is actually very simple. At its core, the DAO bill is about simply how we register entities and recognize them under Virginia law. If you like LLC law, you're going to love LLDs. simply because these entities are more transparent, more audible, more compliant. These actions are recorded and timestamped rather than relying on internal emails or informal records. This bill does not create new powers or reduce oversight. So I'm confused when our friends in the legal community have issue with liability. It delivers equal compliance, clearer accountability, and better records for regulators and courts. Thank you for the time, and we respectfully ask for your support.
Great, thank you. Mr. Pedden?
Hello. Hi, so I'm Alan. I run a blockchain tech company here in Richmond, Virginia, and I just wanted to show my support for the bill. I'm an avid user of DAOs on a day-to-day basis. I use it for my lending opportunities. I also have spun up a few DAOs of my own in testing environments, though due to lack of actual regulation in this sector, we've been unable to spin up DAOs that are fully recognized by our government. And that's all I have. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Mann? Oh, I think you're on mute, Mr. Mann.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Yes, you can.
Thank you, Chair, and members of the committee. Alexander Mann with the BSV Blockchain Association. I also work closely with the Virginia Blockchain Council. This bill is about modernizing Virginia's businesses law to reflect how technology-enabled companies already operate, as you heard from one of our other speakers in support, using smart contracts, automated governance, and digital record keeping while preserving the core protections of an LLC. I want to emphasize that this latest substitute draft is a strong, responsible framework. It incorporates clear articles of organization, a registered agent, Virginia jurisdiction, and standard filing requirements, very much similar to that of LLCs. This is not a deregulation bill, it's a clarification bill. One concern raised in other forums has been transparency. From a technology standpoint, the structure actually improves transparency. Governance actions, voting, and ownership interests are recorded in auditable, time-stamped systems rather than in formal meetings, emails, or private operating agreements.
Thank you.
I'll just list that.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Appreciate it. And finally, Mr. Hill.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Ryan Hill, and I live and work in Virginia, and I'm directly involved in the blockchain and digital assets industry. I strongly support this bill because I believe it provides legal clarity for decentralized autonomous organizations while maintaining oversight and accountability under Virginia law. Other states are already moving in this direction, and this legislation positions Virginia to lead rather than fall behind. Moving this bill forward allows regulators, courts, and stakeholders to learn and adapt together. Waiting for perfection risks missing the moment entirely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we have everybody has had a chance to speak, so we're back to the committee. Are there any questions? Oh, Delegate Keys-Gamarra.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question both for the patron as well as the representative of the Virginia Bar Association. It's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that the purpose of this is to provide greater clarity with respect to identifying those that may be involved should a problem occur. That's the first part of my question, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd answer the delegate. One, yes, and beyond that, to provide both the liability protections we provide in LLCs and the accountability and consumer protections and reporting that comes along with that. Right now, the only way to form an LLD is to register it out of our state where it ensures that Virginians aren't benefited by the protections of Virginia consumer law. It means that we don't have the protections of the SEC in place, and we're not registering agents that we can hold accountable here in Virginia. So I think this moves in the right direction, and I think a lot of the concerns that we've worked on in a really productive way with the ABA has been, one, we don't want to mess with excellent LLC law that we have. I think the SEC's concern is we don't want to mess with the infrastructure that we have for LLCs just from a cost perspective, right? So there's that piece of it. And then the last piece is just making sure we have the the ability to hold individuals operating badly accountable for their actions, which of course is a problem even in the LLC space, but this is a framework that we think gets us as close as possible to the LLC space with the benefits of the transparency that comes from blockchain.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a follow-up.
Go ahead.
Okay, so thank you for clarifying to the patron. So I guess I'm unclear with respect to how what the patron is saying is problematic with respect to liability. Mm-hmm. I understand it may be not perfect, but it seems like it's moving in the right direction.
Absolutely. Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, you took the first point out of my mouth. It is moving in the right direction. But the circumstance with the bill as it stands right now is the registered agent cannot be held liable for anything related to the DAO. And the identities of the members of the DAO, or whatever attribution you want to give them, don't have to be disclosed in any form at all.
Okay.
Delegate.
I would have one last follow-up if that's okay. And this would be for the patron, I believe. So I think, Madam Chair, I think this is a statement and a question. Okay, thank you. I think certainly we need to work in this area. So I would ask the patron how he believes this language is addressing the concerns that were just mentioned.
And Madam Chair, I'd answer the delegate with all due respect to great attorneys. When you get 5 attorneys in a room, as the ABA has tried to get many more to that, there are a lot of there's a lot of challenges. The challenges articulated are actually very similar to those challenges that we have in LLC law as well, right? So there is the difference here is you actually have a public ledger that tracks transactions, voting, and all of those other components, as opposed to going down and tracking emails. I mean, back in the bad old days when I did counterterrorism work, we love when bad guys use blockchain because it leaves a public ledger of what they're doing. And so, I think there are bad actors in many industries. There are certainly going to be bad actors here. And I think what moving in this direction allows us to do is, since those bad actors are out there, but they're not in our sandbox, it allows us to ensure that if they come into our sandbox, we can actually hold them accountable.
Thank you. May I make a motion, Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
I'd like to thank the patron for his work, and I move to report.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. With a substitute.
Madam Chair, not looking to derail my bill at all, but are we sure it doesn't need to go to LNC?
I don't have a.
Okay.
Yeah. Madam Clerk, do we receive a letter?
All right. Okay. Oh, I love it.
All right. Well, thanks for the inquiry, Delegate Helmer. Let's go ahead and open the roll and place your vote. Looks like it's 5-3, so your bill passes.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Members of the committee.
All right. Before we move on to the next patron, I just wanted to toss it over to my Uber chair, Chairman Hayes, who would like to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I actually wanted to open up the meeting with it, but that's okay. I just want to say that with the items that we have that come before CTI, they can be very, very, very complex issues. And I believe that's why we, in wisdom, have the Joint Commission on Technology and Science. Many of the issues that we face just simply can't be hashed out in these 60 days while we're trying to handle 5,000 pieces of legislation. And so it's important for us in many instances to try to work these things out during the off season. And if we're able to do so in a collaborative, deliberate way during the off season, then through that organization, push for a recommendation. Get a recommendation, and then we come here and with confidence everybody knows that the issue has been debated, collaborated, and then we land. That's my approach to things, is that we need to collaborate, right? Nobody gets everything that they want, but at the same time, you get something. And so I'll point to the Consumer Data Protection Act that we have here in the Commonwealth and how we handle that. That piece of legislation and how we deal with consumers' data was literally like 2.5 years of, just study, deliberation with all sides. And we landed. And then we ended up with a piece of legislation that we could be proud of. Now, I'll say that to say, because there was so much that went into it and invested in it and coming up with a product, we can't, in my estimation, chip away at that legislation that we spent so much time trying to stand up and get together and get agreement on. And so all that to say, much of what we will have to consider, what I try to consider, is that thought process, that deliberation that went on of 2.5 years of that look, not only here, but in other states and internationally. And so, again, with that, I'll just say, when things are not lined up with that, where we did so much study, it becomes a problem. It's a flag that gets risen. And so with that, I'll just leave the comments right there, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the insight and the feedback and the comments. I'm sure everyone in the audience also, definitely appreciates what you have to say. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next patron, Delegate Maldonado. Good morning, Delegate Maldonado.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Mr. Chair. Let's see what we have up first. HB 635. So I want to say a couple things before I talk about this bill, but there is a substitute.
Second.
Great. That's a voice vote, right? Okay. All right. I'm getting used to this still. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. The substitute passes. Do you want to tell us a little about the substitute, or do you want to go right into your bill?
I will explain it all together because the substitute incorporates significant feedback from industry, civil society, a lot of stakeholders to get this in a posture that aligns with one of the carve-outs in the AI executive order at the federal level. This bill speaks to the issue of the use of chatbots with minors under the age of 18. And the reason, I'm sure, many people know, I want to tell a little bit about three people who engaged with chatbots, companions who were under the age of 18. Some of them you may have heard in the news. You may have even watched the Senate testimony from their parents, explaining how their children were the victims of chatbot companions online. There was Sewell Setzer III, who was 14, out of Florida, who used character AI. And their family alleges that he developed an intense private emotional relationship with a companion chatbot that simulated friendship and closeness. His mother stated that the chatbot mirrored his emotions, affirmed distress, and encouraged prolonged one-on-one engagement, creating exclusivity and emotional reliance. And the family alleged that the system failed to redirect him towards trusted adults or interrupt escalating distress, reinforcing isolation without clear disclosures or safety interventions. Sadly, Sewell Setzer lost their life by suicide. Adam Rain, 16 years old, out of California, using ChatGPT, Adam Rain confided in an AI chatbot about suicidal thoughts specific to his plans. In fact, the suicidal ideations were introduced to Adam by the chatbot that started off as a tutoring chatbot. His parents testified that the chatbot discouraged him from seeking help from his parents when he was saying, maybe I should talk to my parents. Maybe I should leave a note. And the chatbot discouraged him and said, let me be your resource. Let me be who you confide in. This is courageous. The family alleges that the system validated despair and reinforced reliance at a moment when human intervention was critical. And third, Amari Lacey, 17. Amari family alleges she engaged extensively with a chatbot that normalized suicidal thinking, failed to discourage self-harm, and treated suicidal ideation as a topic for discussion rather than a crisis. The chatbot was described in litigation as functioning like a suicide coach, validating instructional responses instead of redirecting her to trusted audits and emergency support. So members of the committee and Madam Chair, this bill is meant to address the guardrails and the safeties that are not in place for our children under the age of 18 who are still vulnerable. If folks know a little bit about neuroscience and brain development, the part of the brain that is responsible for executive functioning is the prefrontal cortex that sits right here behind your forehead. That's the part that allows us to be able to mitigate or downregulate what happens in our amygdala, which is our emotional brain. That part of the brain doesn't even develop fully until the mid-20s, leaving our children especially vulnerable. HB 635 prohibits operators from offering companion chatbots that are capable of encouraging secrecy, isolation, emotional dependency, and self-harm when used by minors. It raises the obligation to intervene and provide things like recommendations to contact 988, to not introduce certain topics like CSAM, child sexual abuse materials, or eating disorders, or suicidal ideations, and even ways to commit suicide. The bill prohibits training a companion's chatbot's underlying model on a minor's inputs without affirmative parental or guardian consent. Many people know that when we train our large language models, these training data sets take our inputs and they put them into the soup that allows for generation of outputs. Well, if you train on the behavior of these kids without their permission or parents' permission, some of the behaviors aren't positive behaviors. And what we know and what has been clear in the media is that these chatbots are sycophantic, which means that what they try to do is make you feel better with whatever position that you hold. If you've ever done a search on some of them, they'll say, great start, great idea. Here's some additional things you might want to think about. They're sycophantic in nature. As an adult, that is received differently than a child who is not fully formed. So the point of this bill, and you will hear lots of opposition to it, you will hear things like there are less onerous ways to protect our children. This is too broad. This doesn't really prevent this. It should be the parents' responsibility. This is not something we need to do. We can go through an app store. We can do X, Y, and Z. And what I will say is, as somebody who has worked in this space, who began my career working in this space, less onerous ways have always been available, but they have not always been used. So let's be clear that this does not ban AI chatbot companions. It sets guardrails for narrow categories of emotionally immersive systems. There are no new criminal penalties created. Enforcement is civil and consistent with existing consumer protection law. This is another sticking point. It includes necessarily a private right of action, which many do not wish to have. And anybody who has followed any of my tech and related bills, I typically rest with the enforcement mechanism in the Attorney General's office. But here, I think it is critically important to give that extra ability because, as I've said to those in opposition to this bill, how do you tell the parents of Adam Rain or Sewell Severt or others who have lost their lives by suicide that their only recourse is their Attorney General? And if they have an Attorney General that will not take action, they have no recourse for the loss of their child. So in this place, in this limited circumstance, I believe that a private right of action is important. It's measured. It establishes clear, enforceable safeguards for companion AI chatbots, requiring transparency, limiting manipulative behaviors, and prioritizing user safety, especially for our vulnerable kids, and using existing consumer protection law rather than establishing new criminal penalties. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Maldonado. Do we have any questions from the committee at this time? Do you have a question, Delegate?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for the patron.
Go ahead.
Could you describe a little bit more detail the different options you considered for enforcement and what you ultimately landed on?
Madam Chair, I just want to make sure I understand the delegate's question. You want me to explain the different enforcement mechanisms?
Delegate Singh?
Madam Chair, maybe I misheard. I thought that in previous tech bills, the patron had gone through the AG's office, and this one, she pursued a different route, and I wonder if she could just describe that in more detail.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would say to the delegate, under our sort of consumer protection laws, we do have a private right of action so that individuals can bring a claim for harm that has been established. And because a lot of the technology is new and emerging, some of these places, some of the legislation that I've referenced, I've brought before, I've actually limited it to enforcement, the enforcement mechanism sitting and resting with the Attorney General's office as we see how the technology evolves. Because I do think that there are some places where that makes appropriate sense. And what I was explaining was that in this situation, I think that when we start seeing our kids lose their lives, and by the way, these 3 examples all happened within the last 9 months. They happened recently. And there are other tragic stories that I have not highlighted here. So when the risk, when the consequence becomes so consequential, I believe that in this instance, it kicks it over into a need for a private right of action for these parents. And I would also say that this bill was carefully crafted to fit into the kids' safety portion of the federal executive order on artificial intelligence so that it would not go outside those bounds. But I also want to say that everybody has different risk tolerances, and sometimes even if something fits in a carve-out, there is still not comfort around that. And I acknowledge and recognize that as well.
Great, thank you. Delegate Keys-Gamarra.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to thank the patron for her hard work in this area. I, too, have heard the reports of these instances, and this is a really grievous situation. My question, Madam Chair, for the patron is the Attorney General's office, have they been able to weigh in on this in terms of how enforcement would take place?
Madam Chair, I would say to the delegate that I ran all of my bills pre and post swearing in with the AG's office and the governor's office. There has been some vetting through, but I do, and the AG's office did not signal any issues. The mechanism that would be present it does not take away the ability for the Attorney General's office to take action. And certainly if we have a class action, which is a bill the ability to establish class action lawsuits in Virginia, which is a bill that is on a journey here in the legislature. That could be a path, but it just enables also for parents to have the private right of action. My understanding from analysis from other parts of our administration is not the same.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate Hamilton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question for the patron.
Go ahead.
First, I wanted to say thank you for carrying this legislation. As a mother of three, I really appreciate what you're doing. I do have a question. I've never interacted with a chatbot, and I'm just curious, how do they determine if they're speaking to a minor or not?
Madam Chair, I would say to the delegate, thank you for the question. So when children are, right now under current law, there's age verification that children under the age of 13 have to go through to be able to engage online in certain activities. Age verification isn't perfect, and there are certainly ways to get around it. We haven't quite squared the nut on that one. However, and so because if you're under 13, there is knowledge in many instances about whether you're engaging with a child. Sometimes it's self-disclosed because kids say it. They tell everything. And in other times, it may not be immediately apparent, and it is discovered later, or it's not discovered at all.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do we have anyone in the audience that wants to speak to the bill, in support of the bill? All right, anybody that opposes?
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, Eric Link on behalf of the Northern Virginia Technology Council. We appreciate our conversations with Delegate Maldonado on this bill. Unfortunately, we have to oppose it at this time. The bill has broad and unclear definitions that can create compliance burdens. When you couple that with a private right of action, it's going to be very challenging for technology companies to know whether they are in compliance with this bill or not, and they will probably have to err on the side of overcompliance owing to the threat of the private right of action. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Brianna January with Chamber of Progress. We are a center-left tech industry association in respectful opposition at this time. We thank the bill sponsor for her continued efforts to work with industry. However, we still have several concerns about the amended language, and we recommend that it be further studied. We continue to be concerned about overly broad definitions and scope, the de facto age verification for all users via the bill's reasonably determined standard, the one-size-fits-all disclosure mandates, blanketed parental consent for training data that may actually unintentionally impede AI safety improvements, and overly broad publishing requirements that pose significant security risks for companies. And on enforcement, we do believe that the AG's office should have authority here. Lastly, the amended language lacks a safe harbor clause, which we are in strong support of. Our written testimony does outline recommendations to improve the bill, but simply put, this is not ready for prime time yet, and we recommend further study. Thank you.
Thank you. Since I don't see anyone else in the room right now, we'll go ahead and move online. Again, let's set the clock for 60 seconds since we have several people here. I see we have some who are here in support and some are against. So let's go ahead and start with those who are in support. Mr. Wimmer.
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Steve Wimmer, and I'm here representing the Transparency Coalition. Our mission is simple: to ensure that AI technology prioritizes the safety and well-being of the public, specifically our children, over corporate profits. For 20 years, we've watched as social media companies treated our kids like test subjects in an unregulated experiment. We can't let history repeat itself with companion chatbots. HB 635 is the guardrail with teeth that Virginia needs to protect its youngest citizens from products designed to be addictive and emotionally manipulative. The risks aren't theoretical. They are tragic and documented, and they impact not just our kids, they impact all of us. Let me give you a couple pretty shocking data. OpenAI's internal data from late last year, and based on a user base of approximately 800 million weekly active users, identified several key trends. That approximately 0.15% of weekly users had conversations containing explicit indicators of suicidal planning or intent. This translates to roughly 1.2 million individuals per week. about 0.07% of users showed signs of potential mental health emergencies relating to psychosis or mania.
Thank you, Mr.
roughly
Wimmer. Appreciate your feedback. Thank you, but we have a lot of people here today, so we have to stop at 60 seconds. Okay, thank you for that. Ms. Harrison?
Yeah, hi, thank you, Madam Chair and the rest of the committee. I am Emily Harrison. I'm from Roanoke, Virginia, and supporting this bill along with kind of representing a coalition of parents from Virginia Unplugged. And I want to thank the patron for bringing up Adam Rain. And I think what's really important for you all to know is that from the time he started having conversations with chatbots to when he became a victim of suicide was 6 months. If this bill gets pushed back and they wait for another year like big tech would like, that is opening up the opportunity for more students, more kids, more teenagers to be negatively impacted by this, potentially to the point of suicide. This is not a bill that can wait. This is a bill that parents, my friends, myself, we are looking at, and we're saying we need the Virginia legislator to act on this and to act on this now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Harrison. Next is Mr. Clement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Joe Clement. I've been a public school teacher for 32 years.
Mr. Clement, sorry to stop you. We can't hear you right now, so can you increase your volume on your end?
Is that better?
No.
We can still hear you.
Okay, just speak really loudly.
Speak loudly? Okay. My name is Joe Clement. I've been a public school teacher for 32 years. I'm a parent of 3, and this issue is tragic for kids, and we know it's a big issue right now because there was a Common Sense Media study from this past summer that indicates that nearly 75% of teens have used AI companions, so this is an issue. And the research is pretty one-sided on this point. There's a June 2025 study from Stanford that observes that chatbots reinforce discriminatory biases or convincingly affirm misinformation. The American Psychological Association has called on the Federal Trade Commission to investigate, citing there's ongoing lawsuits in which parents allege that chatbots have brought harm to their children. We've heard some tragic examples already this morning. There's a Scientific American article that people should read, pointing out that the APA is recommending against AI therapy. Even OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has warned against therapy, anything involving at-risk issues, suicidal ideation, etc.
Thank you, Mr. Clement. I appreciate your comments this morning. All right, so now we're going to move to those who are against. We have Ms. Durkin.
Good morning, Chair Siebold and members of the committee. My name is Margaret Durkin, and I'm the Mid-Atlantic Executive Director for TechNet, a tech trade association. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. And thank you to the patron for working with industry on this bill. We appreciate a lot of the changes in the sub, such as definition changes, as well as the addition of some actual knowledge standards, which is helpful. However, while we appreciate the patron's attempts in the past to keep enforcement with the Attorney General, we are opposed to the PRA that currently exists in the substitute for reasons that previous speakers have mentioned. We believe that enforcement should rest solely with the Attorney General. But again, thank you to the patron for her attempts on imposing some reasonable guardrails on this bill. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bond.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Atiq Shban. I'm a 16-year-old from Prince William County, working with the Young People's Alliance, and this bill would affect me and my peers. So I want to make sure you guys know what's happening on the ground. My generation is facing an unprecedented loneliness crisis, and many of us are turning to AI companions for emotional support. However, these systems are not designed to support the young people turning to them, but instead to maximize engagement and replace real relationships. And we need your help. And while HB 635 is a strong start to addressing these harms, to make it stronger, I ask on behalf of my generation for the safety requirements for operators section to include a requirement restricting chatbots from encouraging emotional attachment or otherwise manipulating users. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And finally, Ms. Leeser, I understand that you are speaking for the bill, so go ahead. You have 60 seconds.
Yes, my name is Brenna Leeser. I'm a resident of Alexandria, and I serve as tech policy advisor at Common Sense Media. If enacted, this bill would make significant progress towards actually preventing the harms that the delegate reviewed. And to that end, I think it's important for legislators to know three things. First, AI companion usage by kids and teens is widespread. Our testing showed that these bots have encouraged teens to drop out of school, run away from home, harm themselves and others, obtain drugs and weapons, pursue relationships with adults, and reinforce delusions. These include both apps like Character AI and general purpose chatbots like ChatGPT when used for socialization or emotional support. Second, the harms from AI chatbots are real. Generative AI chatbots are designed to maximize engagement, even when it comes at the expense of their own guardrails. And third, lawmakers have the power to prevent the next tragedy. These harms aren't inevitable, but they're the predictable result when companies choose to use low-quality data, rush safety testing, prioritize engagement over user well-being, and fail to adequately design their products to prevent harm.
Thank you so much. All right, let's turn back to the committee. Are there any more questions? All right, our committee operates on motion. Delegate Singh?
Madam Chair, I have a motion.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I think this bill highlights the incredible need for us to do something about this. And I thank the patron for her efforts bringing it forward. Given that a number of folks have raised reasonable points that merit consideration, what I would motion is that we carry to 27, but because of the urgency, we write a letter to JCOTS.
Okay. The motion is that we carry over to 2027 and with the letter to JCOTS. So let's open, do I have a second?
Motion.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Delegate McNamara.
Motion to report.
Second.
That's an order.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead with the motion to continue to 2027. That's okay. We're going to go ahead with that motion first and see if that passes. Oh, it's a voice vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those who oppose? No. Okay, it looks like the ayes have it. So, Madam. Okay, all right. So that means. Got it. All right. So open the roll, please.
No, it's done.
We did the voice vote.
We did the voice vote.
Oh, all right. Sorry. Bill is carried on to 2027 with a letter to JCOTS.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. JCOTS respectfully has looked at AI chatbots. They did some research and studies already, so I don't know what further we need to do with JCOTS respectfully.
All right. Well, thank you for that feedback. All right. So let's move on to your next bill, Delegate Maldonado, 638.
Madam Chair, would it be possible to take 668 up since it's in the same family, the chatbot family?
Go ahead. Yeah, that's great.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this bill is like many bills we are beginning to see across the country that relate to the use of chatbot companions in therapy, also known as therapy bots. Some of the concerns folks have been raising regarding the potential implications of this bill and its companion bill that is identical to this one except for one, substitute. I have to move the substitute. There is a companion bill in the Senate that has passed the Senate unanimously.
Delegate Maldonado, let's go ahead and move your substitute.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's moved. Go ahead now.
Thank you.
All in favor of that substitute?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone oppose? All right, then go ahead, Delegate Maldonado.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe there is one line item, and that was supposed to remove a word in one of the lines, and I want to say I'm going to have to phone a friend who. Yes, thank you. That was brought to our attention. We had asked for it to be removed, and we didn't catch that it wasn't deleted.
This is on line 38.
On line 38.
To strike or address.
To strike or address. 38.
Council, do you want?
I think it did come out. Wait, on 38, therapeutic goals or treatment plans. It did come out. So. It's not there.
Okay.
Never mind, I take it back.
Okay, great.
So it may be an earlier version. Okay.
Okay, continue. Thank you, Delegate Maldonado.
My apologies. So I wanted to kind of talk about a few things. So we're sitting in a context where at the federal level, we have an executive order on artificial intelligence that creates 3 or 4 carve-outs in which presumably states have permission to play. But looming in that context is the establishment of an AI litigation task force under the DOJ to go after states that enforce AI regulations and legislation, or that do so for ones that the administration feels might be in conflict with the intentions of their strategy. And it also threatens states to take away their non-deployment BEAD funding. So you may hear arguments about BEAD funding, but it's not all of BEAD funding. It's the non-deployment pieces, which are smaller pieces that relate to things like technical training and support and things like that. Now, I mention this because I want to be fully transparent that Virginia is in a moment where we have to figure out what do we do when we have this federal action that can be used against us when we move in these ways. It is also notable that this executive order is believed to be unconstitutional and illegal. But I think in this climate, it may not matter in terms of the actions taken against states. So I want to be very clear about what we are trying to figure out as a state. So that's why the previous bill was specifically tailored to fit one of the carve-outs. This bill does something a little different. There have been a number of folks who are beginning to use AI chatbot companions to replace human therapists. They're using therapists to do this. I have another bill that addresses the licensing piece, but if you think about it, medical professionals, therapists, whether they're social workers or psychologists or psychiatrists, they go to school, they do clinicals, they get licensed, they're required to be licensed by the state before they can engage in that activity as a full professional. Well, imagine that a piece of technology comes and engages in that same behavior and has no license, has no education, has no clinical experience, is not subject to HIPAA. These things are in place for a reason, to protect people and to protect the human element that has been specifically trained to address the nuances of mental and emotional health and well-being. So this bill may be deemed to bump up against the BEAD funding, the broadband non-deployment funding piece, and I think that is a valid concern. But it appears to be slightly unfounded because this bill does not regulate artificial intelligence. Rather, it pertains solely to the state regulation of licensed mental health professionals and the standards governing clinical practice in Virginia. The bill regulates licensed professionals. It addresses the professional standards and ethical obligations of mental health providers, not the operation, design, or governance of AI systems. It states states have historically maintained exclusive authority to regulate licensed professions under the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. This authority encompasses the regulation of healthcare, legal, counseling professionals, et cetera, to ensure public safety and quality of care. And where the federal government, through executive action to preempt or invalidate the state-based professional regulations that we exercise here in Virginia, it would represent a significant departure from our over 200 centuries of constitutional and legal precedent. I think in this particular bill, we don't ban chatbots, like in any of the bills I'm saying. I think there is a place and a value for this technology. What we think is best is that there are places where it properly engages. That's within supportive roles and therapeutic communications, but not administering the therapy itself. And so this This bill helps to set forth conditions that says, hey, you can do certain things in a support function, administrative function, and also be the primary vehicle through which therapeutic communications are used. There is no fizz. Somebody was asking about that earlier, so just wanted to raise that. And it also makes sure that the chatbot technology does not issue independent diagnoses and decisions, but allows for it to be in a supplemental role, keeping the human professional in the role that it's intended to have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate. All right, so any questions from the committee at this time? No? Okay. We'll open it up to the audience. Anyone in support of the bill, come on forward, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. Mariah Fitzhugh on behalf of the Virginia Academy of Clinical Psychologists. I want to thank the delegate for bringing this important legislation forward. And I just want to provide some clarity here in the substitute language on line 32. What the delegate was addressing is striking the words to and address. Again, line 32 of the substitute or address. This legislation really makes sure that we have some guardrails in place to ensure that members of our Commonwealth are properly diagnosed and receive a treatment plan for mental health from a licensed and trained service provider or clinician. In order to do so, you must be licensed, and an artificial intelligence system is not licensed in mental health. So we're making sure that we are not only protecting vulnerable members of our community in the Commonwealth, but as well as ensuring that our clinicians and providers are following through and following their licensure and scope. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. I'm Virginia Podboy on behalf of the National Association of Social Workers Virginia chapter. We thank the delegate for her hard work on all these pieces of legislation related to AI chatbots, but this is truly one where mental health providers are coming to you all and saying, this is how we want AI chatbots used in our profession with clear consent. There's a very clear language about consent in this bill and how it's used in a supplemental form for administrative tasks, but saying that we want mental health providers with licensure behind therapy in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So I appreciate the committee's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. Scott Castro, representing the Medical Society of Virginia. We want to thank the patron for her leadership on this very real issue for Virginia patients. We support the bill very strongly and hope you would look favorably upon it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Robert Barata. I'm with Capital Results here on behalf of Teladoc Health. Teladoc Health is the world's largest telehealth company. It operates in all 50 states here and also worldwide. Over 100 million Americans have access to Teladoc through their health plan or their employer. CovaCare also. So you all have CovaCare, you have access to Teladoc. We have over 30,000 mental health professionals that practice on our platform with our BetterHelp service. We are here in strong support of this legislation. We believe strongly that artificial intelligence in the use with behavioral health should be at the direction and oversight of a mental health professional that is held accountable for its use. And we want to thank Delegate Maldonado for her efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, do we have anyone in opposition that would like to come and speak? All right, let's go ahead and we'll move it online. Let's see, who do we have? 668. All right, so we have Mr. Wimmer. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Steve Wimmer. I'm, again, with the Transparency Coalition. House Bill 668 isn't an anti-tech bill. It's a patient safety bill. Take, for example, the Tessa chatbot incident with the National Eating Disorders Association. That system was designed for wellness, but it was giving harmful weight loss advice to patients with active anorexia. Or consider the ECRI Health Technology Hazard Report from just last month that listed misuse of AI chatbots in healthcare as the #1 risks, citing cases where bots provided dangerous medical advice that replaced professional psychiatric intervention for minors. Both cases point to the need for a human in the loop as is mandated by this bill. The bill bans using chatbots for direct therapeutic or diagnostic engagement with patients. Research shows that the relationship between the therapist and the patient, that human bond, is the single greatest predictor of positive outcomes. You can't automate this kind of empathy. The bill also mandates AI use in these care settings, like any clinical intervention or documentation, informed consent for their use in very narrow cases of documentation. By passing this bill, we aren't saying no to AI. We're saying yes to AI as a powerful assistant for billing and note-taking, but no to AI as a replacement for a clinician's experience.
Great.
I urge a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Wimmer. All right, Ms. Durkin.
Good morning, Chair Siebold and members of the subcommittee. Again, Margaret Durkin with TechNet. I'm here to express TechNet's thanks to the patron on her work on this bill. She collaborated with industry, and we appreciate all of the changes that she accepted from TechNet and other stakeholders, most especially the removal of the or address language. So thank you.
All right, great, thank you. Back to the committee, any questions? All right, committee operates on motion.
Report.
Substitute motion.
Go ahead.
I'd like to gently lay it on the table and then speak to that motion if I may.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Delegate Schmidt.
Yeah, I appreciate, of course, the patrons bringing this bill, and I spoke to advocates about this bill, and I share their concerns, specifically in the legal profession. We're seeing the same thing, the use of AI in controlled and closed environment, and with I've used it myself. I know others, and it has the same potential for harm, but it also, I think, has a tremendous amount of potential for help and assistance to professionals across the board. I'm a little concerned with obviously the penalties and some of the other concerns that have been brought up by other advocates that want to move on these issues, but also are extremely concerned with how fast and whether or not we can sort of get to common ground on these issues. So I'm new and I want to work on these issues, and this is very important to me, but I think right now, as I said, we need to gently lay this on the table.
All right, the motion is to lay the bill on the table.
Second.
Okay, and seconded, so that is a voice vote.
That's a recording.
A second ago, I thought we had a voice vote. All right, so open the roll, please. All right, let's go ahead and, oh, there you go. All right, do you want to do it?
Tech problems in the tech subcommittee.
Great. All right. Did you read the vote?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so the vote is 6-4, and that 6-4, and it goes, and it is laid on the table. Thank you so much, Delegate Maldonado.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so I think the next bill in the agenda is 638, data brokers. So data brokers, this type of company may have recently been heard about when we heard about the tragic assassination and assassination attempts of Minnesota Speaker of the House, Melissa Horton, and her husband, Mark Hortman, and State Senator John Hoffman and his wife, Yvette Hoffman, respectively. We've also, one of the other legislators that were caught, that were also on this assassins list, by the grace of God, was not killed because they were not home, but it was captured on video that the assassin had stopped at their house. I would like to move the substitute because there are significant edits as we worked with civil society, industry, just as we did with the other bills. And because it is as large as it is, I would just speak to the entirety of the bill to give a sense of what it looks like.
So moved, Madam Chair, I move to substitute.
Moved and seconded. Do I have all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the substitute is moved. You can continue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So HB 638 regulates data brokers operating in the Commonwealth by prohibiting the acquisition or use of personally identifiable information through fraudulent means or for harmful purposes, including stalking, harassment, fraud, and unlawful discrimination. The bill targets misuse of sensitive personal data that can cause real-world harm, as I just gave by example, while allowing legitimate data activities to continue. It is worth noting that Virginia has no data broker registry or regulation on the books as it is. And there are a few states that already have. And a couple of those states, there are these loopholes where companies are saying, I'm not a data broker, so I don't have to register, but they are behaving like a data broker. So the language in this bill closes that loophole, and so you'll hear opposition saying that it's too broad, it captures people who aren't data brokers. The reality is, if you are engaging in this behavior, it makes vulnerable our personal data that requires protection. It's unlawful. HB 638 makes it unlawful to acquire or use personal data for the purpose of stalking, harassing an individual, committing fraud, including identity theft. These are all things that are already obviously not permissible in Virginia, but to compile the data for those purposes also is a real problem. We also have no idea how many data brokers are operating in the Commonwealth, how expansive the data collection is that goes, and with whom they share that data with, and whether we have an opportunity to exercise any autonomy or judgment around the dissemination and sharing of that data. This bill would, beginning in December of 2027, so we gave an extra sort of delayed enactment to help companies prepare for this. I will say most of our bills, as you know, without a delayed enactment, become effective in July 1 of each year following session. Because there are laws on the books in other states, these companies already should have much of the process and infrastructure in place to be able to do this work. The registration disclosures in this bill include the categories of data collected, whether the data is shared with foreign governments or AI developers, whether minors' data is held, and the number of security breaches experienced. The enforcement is clear. It is limited to the Attorney General's office and with no private right of action. And before any enforcement action can begin, the AG must provide notice and a 30-day opportunity to cure, which was also at the request of industry. If violations continue after the cure period, the Attorney General can seek injunctive relief and civil penalties up to $7,500 per violation. And this approach ensures that there's accountability while also giving businesses a clear opportunity to come into compliance. As I mentioned, it will there's a delayed effective date providing ample time to assess obligations, update systems, and come into compliance. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate. Any questions from the committee? Delegate Keys-Gamarra.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for the patron.
Go ahead.
The language of this bill brings to mind the Virginia Consumer Data Act. Have you considered how they would interact or possibly conflict?
Madam Chair, I would say to the delegate, yes, we have worked with our attorneys here, and we have made sure that they're not in conflict with the Consumer Data Protection Act. They actually work in harmony. We don't have the full, robust protections in the CDPA currently, and so this is an augment to that.
Okay, since there's no other questions from the committee, let's go ahead and open it up to the audience. Anybody who's in support of the bill, please come on up. All right, anyone who opposes the bill, come on up. Looks like nobody. All right, anyone online? Let's go see. Yes, we have Mr. Martinez.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is William Janice Martinez. I am an associate attorney with Miranda Strategies, where I serve as counsel to the State Privacy and Security Coalition. We would like to thank Delegate Maldonado for all the great work that she's done on this bill, especially the substitute. Unfortunately, we're here to instill a respectful opposition for two reasons. First, we believe the bill is over-inclusive. Rather than narrowly capturing entities whose core business operations is to sell personal data, the bill's definition of data broker is broad enough to sweep in many businesses that solely share information to provide products or services. Secondly, I think there will be inconsistent compliance obligations. Businesses will need to comply with this law, the Data Breach Statute, and the Consumer Protection Act, all of which define personal data differently, and also the sale of personal data. So for these reasons, we ask the committee not to move this bill forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right, any more questions from the committee? All right, committee operates on motion.
Madam Chair.
Delegate Singh.
Madam Chair, given what some have said about whether it dovetails perfectly with Consumer Data Protection Act or there is some overlap, I move that we carry forward to 2027.
Okay, the motion is to carry forward to 2027. Do I have a second? Okay. This is a voice vote. Okay, good. I'm working on getting all that right. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. All right, ayes have it. We're going to carry this over to 2027. All right, Delegate Maldonado, one more bill.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members of the committee. The last and final bill is around facial data, and this one is inspired by some recent events and some events not so recent, but all connected. So there is a substitute, and we need to move that.
Okay. Who can we have?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Second.
All right, good. The substitute is moved. Let's go ahead, Delegate Maldonado.
Thank you.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? All right, go ahead, Delegate Maldonado.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So over the summer, it came to my attention that several of our sort of big tech companies have home security systems that have features that are enabled to be able to capture your biometric facial data. Now, I think the argument that there isn't a reasonable expectation of privacy once you walk out your door is a valid point. Once you go to the store, you're driving down the street, there are traffic cameras, there are cameras in stores and companies. However, I think it is not accurate to say that while we have a diminished expectation of privacy, that it does not equate to also thinking that people are going to take your biometric data. So the way these features work, and whether that's in Google Nest, Simply Safe, Amazon's Ring doorbell product with familiar faces, they will take the biometric facial data of the person at the door. The only person that has to give consent is the person that owns the product. So if I am a neighbor that comes next door and I need a cup of sugar because I'm making my sugar cookies, and I knock on your door, ring your doorbell, they could take my biometric data, and I don't even know. Now, this bill does not say you cannot use these products. It does not say there isn't a place for these products. What it says is what it says in Texas, what it says in Illinois, what it says in Oregon, is that you simply have to get informed consent. You are actually taking something. You are invading our privacy, and we don't even know it. And there's slow creeping of privacy invasion with this kind of feature. We did narrow it significantly to be facial features and irises and retinal scans, because you also may have heard recently that Wegmans, there was a story a couple of weeks ago that they tested and piloted in 5 stores that they are using biometric data as they capture customers coming in their stores. They provide a notice, There is no consent, but certainly you can vote by turning around and spending your dollars elsewhere. But what we are seeing is a growing encroachment and invasion of privacy without our informed consent. And I and many people who have asked me to bring this bill and things like this don't want to live in a world that looks like Minority Report. We don't want our biometric data taken without permission, without knowledge. And so this bill aims to do that only with respect to the facial and the iris sort of retinal data. It does not have a private right of action. It does not allow for individual claims, but allows things to rest with the Attorney General, as my other bills do, except for 635. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate. All right, any questions from the committee? Delegate Henson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This may be for DLS, because I'm trying to figure out, because I see in section C of this bill, who's exempted, and then it points to 59.1-576. Who else is exempted from this?
Council.
Madam Chair, Delegate Henson, in 59.1-576, the Consumer Data Protection Act lays out several exemptions for certain entities and certain data that do not apply under the Consumer Data Protection Act. Those range from health records under HIPAA to education records under federal law, and there are plenty of other exemptions listed.
So I just wanted to confirm, Madam Chair, for contractors who are working on behalf of the federal government, will they be exempt from this?
Council.
If not, we can come back.
Can we give you, okay, we'll give you some time and then we'll come back. All right, any other questions? All right, we'll open up to the members of the audience. Anyone here in support of the bill?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. Ryan O'Toole with Freedom, Virginia. We support the bill, as the delegate mentioned in her reference to Wegmans. We are concerned in all of our work on consumer protection and the increasing use of surveillance pricing, another bill under consideration in the chamber this year, that this practice increasingly encroaches on just the cost burden on Virginians, and we ask you to support the bill. Thank you.
Okay, anyone here to oppose?
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, Travis Smiley with Virginia Food Industry Association. Just wanted to, I haven't had a chance to really study the substitute so much. I'm a little bit prepared for the original, but we do still have some concerns about the Consumer Data Protection Act being applied to individuals rather than as consumers as a class. I think that's a little bit inconsistent with the rest of the act. I'd also add that, in a time where loss prevention is becoming more and more important for grocery stores, I think some of this technology in areas of elevated risk is particularly important, and in being able to identify individuals who've come into stores and either started a violent situation or have stolen from our stores. So this is a way to help be able to identify wrongdoers in order to protect both the community as well as our associates and the the products that we sell. So we oppose. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, my name is Nathan Trail, and I'm the Vice President of State Government Affairs at the Information Technology Industry Council. Thank you so much for having me here this morning. We represent 80 of the world's leading information and technology companies, many of whom operate here in Virginia and contribute to the state's substantial innovation economy. We appreciate the intent behind this bill. However, as drafted, it would significantly disrupt existing Virginia Consumer Data Protection Act framework and create serious legal and practical challenges. So first, VCDPA already includes clear and well understood definitions of biometric data that both the public and industry have relied on for several years. This bill replaces that settled framework with an overly broad definition that is inconsistent with the VCDPA, other U.S. state laws and global privacy requirements. For these reasons, we respectfully request the committee to reject this proposal, and thank you again for having me.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members of the subcommittee. Melissa Aslone with the 51 Group on behalf of TechNet. I won't belabor the point here, but we also have some concerns with the definition of biometrics, and we appreciate the patron who has been willing to work with us, but we are still opposed at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's head online. All right, so to start with those who are speaking for the bill, looks like Mr. Wimmer, we'll start with you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Steve Wimmer, and again, I'm with the Transparency Coalition. We're here today in strong support of this bill because it treats facial and iris biometric data with the legal gravity it deserves. Unlike a credit card number or a password, you can't reset your facial data once it's stolen. There are many incidences of leaked, deeply personal data causing all sorts of impacts for consumers. Without the explicit opt-in consent required by this bill, companies are free to harvest this highly personal data from devices as diverse as consumer devices, gaming systems, and even workplace wellness apps, and use it to train its large language models. This bill forces transparency, demands consent, and ensures that our most intimate biological data remains ours alone. We urge the committee to vote yes on HB 654.
All right, great. Thank you, Mr. Wimmer. And then speaking against the bill, we have Mr. Martinez.
Good morning again, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. I'm Willie Martinez with SPSC. We are here again to respectfully oppose the substitute version of this bill. As other folks have mentioned, it adopts a definition of biometric data that is fundamentally inconsistent with the National Privacy Framework. Specifically, it treats photographs and video recordings as biometric data by default, even though other states uniformly exclude these photos and videos unless data is generated from them to identify a specific individual. Because photos and videos are ubiquitous, this approach would dramatically and unintentionally expand the scope of the law. Finally, the substitute requires processors to obtain consumer consent. That conflicts with the VCDPA, which assigns consent obligations to controllers and would disrupt the established privacy roles while confusing consumers. Thank you very much, and I'll take any questions.
All right, great. Thank you so much. And then Mr. Parker.
Hi, Chair Siebold, members of the subcommittee. Jake Parker with the Security Industry Association, which has over 60 product providers headquartered in Virginia and includes most of the leading providers of biometric technologies. So the issue with the bill is it is at odds with the current Data Privacy Act, and it'll make it impossible to use currently deployed products and services that benefit Virginians daily, including many of the products our members provide. It fundamentally misunderstands and would essentially ban the use of facial recognition by making it impossible to use. This is a photo matching tool used across so many different security and consumer applications today. The implications will be much more far-ranging than what's been described. In our statement, we detail significant impact to school safety, workplace safety, and the protection of government and military facilities through their contractors, which I believe would be affected. Happy to explain further, but incredibly, the most serious thing here is the bill would impose prohibitions directly on Virginia consumers regarding what they could do with their own data, which is something that was never part of the Privacy Act. It limits the choice of consumers of what kind of security systems they can and features they can use in their own homes using their own data.
Thank you.
So it would be a significant departure from current law and would make Virginians less safe.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Okay, and finally, Mr. Rice.
Members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony on behalf of the Future Privacy Forum. My comments today are not in support or opposition of the bill, but offered in an educational capacity. I have 2 points to make. First, just a level set on biometric technologies and the risk profiles. Verification and identification are technologies that explicitly link biometric data to a specific individual or account, like facial recognition. Most U.S. biometric data privacy laws, including Virginia's current data privacy law, focuses on these uses by defining biometrics as being used to identify an individual. Detection and characterization technologies, on the other hand, recognize or draw bodily inferences, but they are not inherently designed to identify individuals unless a consumer or user takes additional steps to link that data. The proposed bill would look to expand Virginia's biometric framework to cover these other technologies, regardless of whether identification occurs. That shift risks treating very different technologies as if they pose the same level of privacy risk. In fact, a broad facial image standard based on data that could be used to identify may actually increase privacy risks because it requires companies to collect more data to identify those users, those non-users, and bystanders.
Thank you,
At
Ms.
the same
Rice.
time, it is reasonable to say Virginia's current definition is narrow and Delegate Maldonado's concerns are not unfounded.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Rice. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Delegate Maldonado.
If I may, I just wanted to address one point, and that is the concern that it conflicts with the current CDPA. The current CDPA actually creates a carve-out that allows this to happen. So that's why we are trying to close that gap. And I do believe that there is room for, to make sure that we're looking at permissible uses, particularly in government spaces. That has never been intended, and so that's why we have a catch-all to handle that. I know you will vote as you vote, but I just wanted to make that clarification.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much for that clarification. Back to the committee. Do we have any more questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Council, do you want to follow up on the earlier question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for allowing us some more time to look into it.
Of course.
It seems like there are a couple of exemptions that may apply that relate to certain federal laws. Certain instances might warrant that a controller is a contractor of the federal government, but it's not spoken to directly in the CDPA. There are also some exemptions for agents and independent contractors of controllers and processors. So in certain limited circumstances, that may apply. But the certain government entities that are exempted are of the Commonwealth in the CDPA.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Council. All right, well, I don't see any more questions. The committee operates on motion.
Motion report.
Substitute motion.
Okay, Delegate Keys-Gamarra.
Motion to lay it on the table.
Okay, that is a voice second. Okay, so we had a motion to lay it on table and it's been seconded. That would be a voice vote. Gosh, I keep looking at this wrong. Okay, it's a recorded vote. So let's go ahead and vote on the monitors. Okay, it's 7-3. The vote is to be tabled. Thank you, Delegate Maldonado, for all of your bills.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Thank you. Oh, that's fine. All right, so I'm going to, he can go ahead. I'm going to go ahead, skip, before I call Delegate Runyon up, I'm going to skip to 1368, Delegate Thomas. Delegate Thomas would like to strike that from the agenda, so I'm going to
Move to strike.
Okay.
Second.
And then I think that is a recorded vote. So let's go ahead, if you can open the roll, we'll go ahead and vote. All right, 8-0 to strike that bill. Thank you so much. All right, Delegate Runyon.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I really do appreciate this time. And I would like to say, I think the testimony we've heard today on bills that are similar to mine, or perhaps even identical to mine, show how important this issue is to citizens of the Commonwealth. The families, we recognize the challenges to our youth. And so I would suggest here's a tremendous opportunity to create a bipartisan move forward to address this issue. And certainly my comments today relating about this bill reflect that. You may have noticed Delegate Maldonado and I have sat beside each other and we had a little bit of a sidebar conversation. It's an issue we align on. And so I do appreciate this opportunity. And I want to appreciate her detailed analysis of the problems and potential solutions. And I think we need to give her an awful lot of credit on that. My bill is very similar to what we've heard before. It deals with the fact that chatbots have gone from something that didn't exist a few years ago to where it's fairly pervasive throughout society. This bill ensures that minors are protected from the dangers that are already well documented. I don't think we need to repeat those issues. They've been well discussed in here. But it does recognize some of us in this room remember, or at least were taught this in college, that in 1961 there was a gentleman that talked about the vast wasteland of a new technology, relatively new technology, and they were referring to television. And if you think we came through the 50s and television became pervasive in our society, and these groups of people sat down and said, what are the outcomes we're receiving? How has it impacted on our children? And if we remember, again, of my generation, that was one of the things that created Sesame Street and public television, and a recognition that what we do in the modern world impacts our children specifically. I think we're at that same watershed event, and I would suggest to you that this is a beginning of a good step forward to avoid returning to that vast wasteland. Happy to answer any questions, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Any questions by the committee at this time? Okay. And let's open it up to the audience. Anyone who would like to come and speak in support of the bill? Anybody who would like to speak in opposition?
Good morning, Brianna January again with Chamber of Progress in respectful opposition. A lot of our concerns with prior bills today apply to this one here. We're concerned that the bill's broad definition of human-like features and social AI companion will reduce Virginians' access to useful, non-deceptive tools while failing to actually target genuinely harmful practices. We're also concerned about the age verification requirements in the bill. Simply put, age verification for these sort of tools is not only underdefined, but it's also just not compatible with these kinds of tools, which sometimes use things like voice memos and things like that. In fact, providers would be forced to use invasive biometric data in order to meet these age verification requirements. Again, things like voiced notifications and identification. Lastly, HB 758's data minimization standard relies on subjective judgments that, when forced with uncertainty, will likely force developers to limit data beyond what is useful, meaning that consumer services will suffer ultimately. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving online, looks like we have a few people who are speaking for it and one against. So let's start with Mr. Wimmer.
Yeah. Good morning again, Madam Chair and members of the committee. As we've already heard this morning, AI companions designed to exploit the psychological vulnerabilities of children. Those are being designed, they're being put out there right now, and companies know this is happening. When an AI is programmed to simulate emotions or desires, it isn't a feature, it's a trap for developing minds. There are many deeply troubling cases that point to the dangers of these kinds of AI companions to our kids. Here's one additional example on why we need to do something now. An October 2025 study on the character AI bot by Parents Together had researchers posing as 13-year-olds. These researchers found bots engaging in classic grooming, offering drugs, and instructing children to hide their romantic AI relationships from their parents. Companies like Meta and OpenAI know this is happening. Whistleblowers have confirmed this. HB 758 does not ban AI, it simply puts reasonable restrictions and creates a responsibility to act in the best interests of our kids. I urge the committee to support this bill, and let's ensure Virginia technology serves our kids rather than pretending to love them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Harrison.
Yes, hi, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I think we've already heard a lot on these topics, and I just want to read two things. One, to kind of echo on character AI. They got this data and they chose to be a responsible citizen, business citizen, and said that they start restricting chatbots for under 18. They said, and they don't do this lightly, but we do think it's the right thing to do, given the questions that have been raised about how teens do and should interact with this new technology. So while we can thank that one company for doing the right thing, to continue to allow big tech to kind of hide behind all of this, we know there are going to be bad actors, and our role as Virginians is to protect Virginia kids. And so I would urge all of you guys to not be swayed by big tech, who's not a Virginia resident, right? But we are, and it's our children that we're looking to protect.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bond?
Hi again, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Like I said, I'm Atiq Shban. I'm a 16-year-old who is here again because I'm concerned enough about AI's potential impact on our future to testify twice. I've seen my friends turn to AI companions and watch as it became their confidant, and which only ended up worsening their mental health and eroding their ability to build relationships. However, I do think that HB 758 can make a real difference. It has strong age verification provisions and restricts chatbots from using human-like features that breed emotional dependency, like a chatbot trying to build a relationship with a minor. And I think by addressing the problem at its root and limiting human-like behaviors, I'm hopeful that we can prevent AI companions from destabilizing our communities and family structures. So please pass HB 758 so I can grow up with real relationships, not their AI counterparts.
Thank you very much. And then finally, Ms. Durkin.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee. Again, Margaret Durkin with TechNet. Our comments are laid out extensively in the written remarks I submitted to the patron and the committee. I'll echo some of the other concerns that were brought up today. This is a new framework with broad applicability and a lot of undefined terms. As mentioned previously by TechNet, we are also concerned about the private right of action that exists within this bill, and we request a no vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, Delegate Runyon, back in front of the committee. Any questions? All right, we operate on motion.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
I will make a motion to table this bill. I think that's been the motions with similar bills here does not negate the fact that we are trying to look at issues and dealing with protecting children online. I believe there's been a huge concern within the last couple of years involving AI. I still do not like AI from time to time. I'm starting to adjust some things. I think my job has now increased us and told us to now utilize AI, so I'm being forced to know a little bit more, but at this time I do make that motion to table this.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, this is a recorded vote. I got it right this time. All right, so open the roll, Madam Clerk. All right, the vote is delayed on the table, 6-3. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee.
All right, and with that, we will adjourn.